Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of America and one of the greatest presidents of America in American history. Abraham Lincoln is on the penny, the $5 bill, posters, a bobblehead, and even he has his own memorial. Abraham Lincoln was so liked that no one wanted to kill him, right?
Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye.
Okay, I guess I was wrong. Well, today, this episode is all about Abraham Lincoln's assassination. Once upon a time in 1865, Abraham Lincoln had a horrible dream or a nightmare, and it was so horrible that a couple days later, he described it to his friend and bodyguard Ward Hill Lamone, unquote. There seemed to be a death-like stillness about me. Then I heard subdued sobs, as if a number of people were weeping. I thought I left my bed and wandered downstairs. There the silence was broken by the same pitiful sobbing, but the mourners were visible. I went from room to room, no living person in sight, but the same mournful sounds of distress met me as I passed along. I saw light in all the rooms. Every object was familiar to me, but where were all the people who were weeping as if their hearts were breaking? I was puzzled and alarmed. What could be the meaning of all this? Determined to find the cause of a state of things so mysterious and shocking, I kept on till I arrived at the east room, which I entered. There I met, with a sickening surprise before me, rested a corpse wrapped in funeral vestments. Around it were stationed soldiers, who were acting as guards, and there were a throng of people gazing mournfully upon the corpse, whose face was covered on his weeping by pitilessly. "Who is dead in the White House?" I demanded one of the soldiers. "The President," was his answer. "He was killed by an assassin." Then came a loud burst of grief from the crowd, which woke me up from my dream. Around the time of Abraham Lincoln and his horrible dream or nightmare, he received 80 written death threats a week. So that's probably why he got that nightmare or a horrible dream. Abraham Lincoln knew that a lot of people hated him. One person openly hated him, and that man was John Wilkes Booth, the Tom Holland of the 1860s. But John Wilkes Booth was a racist and a Southern sympathizer, and he blamed Abraham Lincoln for all the troubles that was caused in the South. On March 4th, 1865, when Abraham Lincoln was inaugurated for his second term, John Wilkes Booth was only 100 feet away from him. So here's Lincoln, and here is John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth had a plan to kidnap Abraham Lincoln, and he recruited some of his friends to help him, which are Samuel Arnold, George Atzerodt, David Harold, Michael L. Laughlin, Lewis Powell, John Surratt, and even though she had a little part of it, and she's my worst nightmare, Mary Surratt. John Wilkes Booth's plan was to kidnap Abraham Lincoln and take him to Richmond, Virginia, which was back at the time the capital of the Confederates. On March 17th, 1865, the group planned to kidnap Abraham Lincoln while he was watching a play in a hospital on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., but the plan failed after Abraham Lincoln changed his plans. 3 weeks later, Robert E. Lee surrendered to General and future U.S. President Ulysses S. Grant, and the Civil War was over. 2 days later, Abraham Lincoln made a speech from the White House addressing that certain black people will be able to have voting rights. And that P-worded John Wilkes Booth and even made him said, "That is the last speech you'll ever give." Booth thought to himself that assassinating Abraham Lincoln would be better, since now John Wilkes Booth is even more mad. On April 14th, 1865, the same day that Abraham Lincoln would get shot, John Wilkes Booth was getting his mail and found out that Abraham Lincoln was coming to Ford's Theater to watch the play Our American Cousin. Later that night, John Wilkes Booth made a final meeting with his friends and discussed their plans. John Wilkes Booth didn't just plan to assassinate Abraham Lincoln, he also planned to stab General and future President Ulysses S. Grant, but Ulysses S. Grant denied Abraham Lincoln's invitation because their two wives didn't get along together. John Wilkes Booth also gave orders to George Atzerodt to kill Vice President and future President Andrew Johnson, but George Atzerodt did not have the courage to kill Andrew Johnson. And John Wilkes Booth also ordered Lewis Powell to kill Secretary of State William Seward. All of the murders were supposed to take place at 10 o'clock p.m. at the same time. Before the attack, Abraham Lincoln and his wife Mary Todd Lincoln were late to Ford's Theater, and they went with their friends Henry Rathbone and his girlfriend Clara Harris. Do you guys remember Warren Hill Lamone, Abraham Lincoln's bodyguard? Well, he wasn't there that night when Abraham Lincoln to Ford's Theater, which made it easier for John Wilkes Booth just to get inside the president's box. He knows the layout and how the people react to the play, because he performed there so many times that he knows the layout of the theater. Around the same time, Lewis Powell went inside William Seward's home and tried to shoot him and stab him multiple times, but most of the attacks deflected. After being unconscious, Lewis Powell escaped. At 10 o'clock, John Wilkes Booth snuck inside the president's box and shot Abraham Lincoln. After Lincoln got shot, Rathbone was wrestling John Wilkes Booth to face, and Booth was stronger, so he got his knife and stabbed Rathbone in the arm and leg. Then John Wilkes Booth fell down to the stage and broke his leg, and he said these words, "Sic semperis tyrannis!" And after John Wilkes Booth escaped Washington, D.C., he went to Maryland and hid in his shed, where he got cleared as well. And 10 days later, soldiers found him and they burned the shack and then a soldier shot John Wilkes Booth in the back of the head and John Wilkes Booth died. A couple hours later, after John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln died from a gun wound in his head. Now, a lot of people were sad and grieved about Abraham Lincoln's death, and that Abraham Lincoln's horrible dream has came true. Do you remember George Atzerodt? Well, he went to a saloon and he got drunk there and asked a question of spoiling his plans that he was thinking to kill Andrew Johnson by saying, "Where's Johnson?" On July 10th, Samuel Arnold, George Atzerodt, David Harrow, Michael L. Laffin, Lewis Powell, and Mary Surratt were hanged to death, making Mary Surratt the first white woman to ever be hanged in American history. Abraham Lincoln is one of the greatest U.S. presidents in American history by abolishing slavery and making men all created equal what it actually meant. Abraham Lincoln makes himself a part of the Presidential Hall of Fame. Aidan here, and welcome. Not welcome, but I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I am starting a new series called Aidan Talks About Presidents, and this was the first episode. I think this took a lot of editing to do. This took me a whole day to edit, so I hope you guys enjoy it. And I am gonna continue the podcast with my friend Baron sometime next month. He's in West Virginia now, and I am continuing the United States of Minecraft series as well. So I just want to do this new series. I think this will be very fun. I have 5 more episodes planned for season 1. If you guys like it, I will upload. I'll start season 2 around election time. So hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah. Also, I will be doing vlogs whenever COVID's over. Summer hasn't been fun lately because of COVID, but I might do Cape Cod. So the next episode might be 2 weeks from now because of Cape Cod, except if I can get 2 videos made, but hey. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye!